For every cosmic enigma unraveled, science often finds itself confronted by discoveries that push the boundaries of our understanding, jarring anomalies and perplexing phenomena that unsettle even the most steadfast researchers. From inexplicable ancient artifacts, defying conventional narratives, to bizarre biological oddities, challenging our grasp of nature itself, these are the historical and scientific discoveries so profoundly unsettling, they left the very scientists who made them questioning the fabric of our reality. Prepare to confront baffling enigmas that may redefine what you think you know.
Alright, I'm going to start off the list with a very recent discovery. This is actually pretty nuts, very exciting. So the South Carolina Ocean Exploration Company captured a sonar image in the Pacific Ocean that they say seems to be a Lockheed 10E Electra aircraft, the same one Amelia Earhart flew. It was spotted 16,000 feet underwater. It was also about 100 miles away from Howland Island, which was going to be her next stop, along with navigator Fred Noonan. Now, if this is actually Earhart's plane, this would be the answer to a decades-old mystery, but a sad answer. It would mean she didn't vanish or disappear to start a new life somewhere. It would mean she just crashed and died. But it could also bring closure to the whole case, and at the end of the day, her legacy would still live on. It wouldn't change all the accomplishments she made. But let's talk about some other strange stuff that points to the theory that maybe Earhart did survive. Alright, so after Amelia Earhart disappeared, there were reports of her sending out SOS signals and radio messages, as if she were in trouble trying to get help. Now, these distress signals and radio transmissions weren't just heard one time, they kept coming in after she had apparently vanished, as if she was still out there somewhere trying to reach someone. The idea here is that she likely did crash, but might have survived the initial crash and was doing her best to reach out for help. Now again, the implications for this one are kinda dark, just because she may have survived the initial crash, but that doesn't mean she survived, you know? But this next point is a little more uplifting. Sightings of Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan. Yeah, people have claimed to see these two alive over the years. Numerous individuals claim to have seen her and Fred Noonan alive in various locations. This would point to the theory that Earhart intentionally disappeared in order to start a new life. Something that a lot of people really hoped was the case, but many argue that these sightings are really just wishful thinking, tricking people's minds into misidentifying them. And I mean, they may not have even believed what they were saying. It could just be attention seeking. This isn't something that's exclusive to Amelia Earhart. Tons of public figures and celebrities and musicians that died before their time have conspiracies like this surrounding them. You know, Tupac's not dead. I saw him just last week. You know, Kurt Cobain, same deal. People who are inspired by these folks just don't want to believe that they truly are gone. The fact is, Earhart was never found. So she could have survived and started living out of the public eye. You know, it's possible. Again, we have a darker discovery here. Bones. In 1939, several bones were found on Nikamoraro, a remote Pacific island. In 1998, documents from the British Western Pacific High Commission revealed that a work crew of islanders discovered a skull and bones in Gardner Island in 1939. The British suspected these might be Earhart's remains and shipped them to Dr. D.W. Hoodless in Suva, Fiji for identification. Now, at the time, the bones were not believed to be connected with Earhart at all, as they were male bones, but it turns out they were wrong, at least about the bones being male. Decades later, Rick Gillespie sent the measurements recorded by Hoodless to forensic anthropologist Karen Burns at the University of North Carolina. She took the bone measurements and used modern forensic technology, comparing them to estimations of Earhart's bone measurements based on photos of her and her clothing. What she found was that these bones had definitely belonged to a female, and that Earhart was actually a very likely match. The problem is, they didn't have the actual bones to work with, just the measurements. The bones themselves have been lost to time. Again, they ruled them out belonging to Amelia Earhart at the time, so they didn't really care about them. If these bones were still around, scientists would have been able to do actual DNA testing on them. So we're not 100% sure if these bones belong to her, If these were her remains, though, it means she may have survived a crash and ended up on the island, possibly surviving for at least some time. That's going to bring us to another discovery on that exact same island. Part of a shoe. A shoe part was discovered on the same island, in an uninhabited island about 1,000 miles north of Fiji. The International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, or the TIGHAR, that really rolls off the tongue, led by Rick Gillespie, found a black rubber shoe heel with an indentation stamped with Cat's Paw Rubber Company USA. Gillespie suspected that this could be a part of Earhart's footwear. The discovery in 1991 also included aluminum airplane parts and plexiglass. Gillespie, believing that the heel and partial sole might have belonged to Earhart, held a press conference, but experts questioned the evidence as the shoe size indicated by the heel was a size 9, seemingly too large for Earhart. Gillespie organized another expedition in 1996. He didn't uncover much except stories from nearby islanders about 2 skeletons found in the late 30s on the island, then called Gardner Island, as we discussed before. Next up, we have the photo. So in 2017, a very interesting photo surfaced, a photo that experts like Sean Henry, the former executive assistant director for the FBI, have assessed and said has not been doctored or tampered with. This photo, which was found in the National Archives and taken in 1937 on the Marshall Islands, seems to show a woman resembling Amelia Earhart and a man believed to be Fred Noonan standing on a dock. Earhart's last communication was on July 2nd of 1937, and she was declared dead 2 years later, presumed to have crashed in the Pacific Ocean. But if this really is Earhart in this photo, she survived. The woman in the picture is short-haired, wearing pants, a characteristic choice of Earhart, and also there is a man resembling Noonan. The guy in the picture has Noonan's same distinctive receding hairline, and the nose looks a little similar. There's also a Japanese ship, a Koshu, in the picture, towing a barge that's a similar length to Earhart's plane, and this is going to lead us into our next point. There's another theory that Earhart was captured. Locals have stories about witnessing Earhart's crash and reported seeing her in captivity. Some believe the Koshu transported her to Saipan and the Mariana Islands, where she may have died under Japanese custody. But Japanese authorities deny having any record of Earhart being in their custody. So the idea here is that Earhart and Noonan survived their crash and were then taken into Japanese custody. The investigative team behind the discovery pointed to the photograph, which was marked Jaluit et al. And dated 1937, and might have been taken by a US spy monitoring Japanese military activity in the Pacific. Now, this one I'm a little skeptical about. Why would they have been taken into custody? Plus, they don't look all that distressed in the photo, but that does lead us to another theory. Why might she have been taken into Japanese custody? Well, another theory is that Amelia Earhart was actually a spy. Yeah, she wasn't just a pilot on a daring trek across the world. She was working for the US government. But what was her mission, you're probably asking? Well, this conspiracy theory is that Earhart had been tasked with documenting and spying on Japanese island installations, but when the Japanese spotted Earhart and Noonan, they either shot them down or forced them to land, where they were then taken into custody. It does connect the dots in the whole photograph thing, but I don't know. This one seems a little outlandish to me, but what do you all think? So if Earhart was taken into Japanese custody, did she die? Well, that's one possibility. Another is that she escaped or was rescued. This would be a pretty good explanation for the new identity conspiracy theory that's pretty famous. If Earhart had been in fear of any further repercussions, she may have been advised to take on a new identity. So in 1970, a book came out called Amelia Earhart Lives, written by Joe Class. In the book, Class proposes that Earhart was rescued from capture and was sent to New Jersey, almost like a witness protection program type situation, where she changed her name to Irene Bolam, a banker. And you know what? I can kind of see the resemblance. I could see her being an older Earhart. Irene Bolam did not approve of the book, though. She filed a lawsuit against the publisher, denying the claims made in the book, and the book ended up being taken off of shelves. Kind of crazy how some guy seemed to just decide, you know what? I'm gonna write a book about this woman, and because she kind of looks like Amelia Earhart, and I'm just gonna say that she is. You know what? Who knows though? Maybe Bolam really was Earhart, and this guy somehow knew about it, and she just needed to keep her true identity secret. I kind of doubt it though. And the final aspect of the Amelia Earhart mystery is the discovery of wreckage that some researchers have said bears a serious resemblance to her plane. Over the years, there have been sonar images, aside from the most recent one we discussed at the top, and alleged sightings of underwater wreckage that some believe could be Earhart's Lockheed Electra. Some have looked at this wreckage and said it aligns with the known flight path and the disappearance coordinates of her aircraft. I really hope, though, that this recent discovery sheds more light on this case. I imagine they're going to send a team down to look at the wreckage, if it really is the wreckage of a plane. For now, we'll just have to cross our fingers and wait.
Starting off, we have the landing. Japan became the 5th country in history to reach the moon when one of its spacecrafts without astronauts successfully made a soft landing on the lunar surface early last week. However, space officials said they need more time to analyze whether the smart lander for investigating moon, aka SLIM, achieved its mission priority of making a pinpoint landing. SLIM landed on the moon at about 12:20 a.m. Tokyo time, and there was a tense wait for news after the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency's mission control initially said that SLIM was on the lunar surface, but that it was still checking its status. Now, no further details were given until a news conference nearly 2 hours later, but even now, it's kinda hard to find information about the landing. I mean, what are they hiding from us? I need to know. The space officials believe the SLIM small rovers were launched as planned and that the data was being transmitted back to Earth, said Hitoshi Kananaka, head of the Institute of Space and Astronautical Science, a unit of Japan's space agency. Now up next, we have moon rocks. It has been found that the oldest moon rocks are older than the oldest Earth rocks. The oldest moon rock returned to Earth is an aneuplorsite that was found by the Apollo 16 astronauts. It's estimated to be around 4.46 billion years old. Now that is just insane. Now this date corresponds to the formation of a larger lunar impact basin from which the rock was thrown. Other studies indicate that the rock lay exposed on the lunar surface for 8.6 million years after it was moved again by the formation of a nearby crater known as Spook Crater. Again, it is an aneuplorsite, the rock that makes up the light-colored lunar highlands. Now the oldest rocks found on Earth are about 4.28 billion years old. Now ancient rocks are rare on Earth because of active geologic forces, including plate tectonics and erosion, recycling, and removing the oldest surfaces. But with not that many people on the moon and messing with them, it's easier to find them there than on Earth. Now it's just crazy to me that these rocks are that old. Moving on to the weird substance. The discovery was made by a U-2 Drive team member in July 2019 during Lunar Day 8 of the rover's mission, which was a part of China's Change 4 mission to explore the far side of the moon. They discovered an object in the middle of a small crater that was initially described by Our Space, a Chinese language science outreach channel, which could be translated as gel-like. So yes, there was a gel-like substance found on the moon. Now outside scientists suspected the substance was glassy material created by impact that turned out to be correct. In their article Earth and Planetary Science Letters, Gu Sheng and colleagues analyzed data from U-2's panoramic and hazard avoidance cameras and the rover's visible and near infrared spectrometer VNIS instrument. They use a procedure called spectral unmixing to break down the measured spectra from VNIS to determine the likely composition and abundance of the material. Now the authors describe described the material as a dark greenish and glycerine impact melt bacteria measuring 20 inches by 6 inches. Now these features are signs of possible presence of glasses, which are usually sourced from impact melts or from volcanic eruptions. Now let's discuss new elements found. The Indian Space Research Organization ISRO has made a landmark discovery on the moon's south pole using its Pragyan moon rover. A bunch of elements including sulfur, iron, calcium, manganese, oxygen, titanium, aluminum, corium, and silicon were identified. Notably, the absence of hydrogen raises questions regarding the presence of water ice in the area, a discovery scientists eagerly anticipate. Now this achievement by Pragyan represents the first in situ measurements of these elements at the lunar location. Although the South Pole was previously recognized for its large water ice deposits, this new data reshapes our understanding of it. Now to identify these elements, the rover employed laser-induced breakdown spectroscopy (LIBS), a technique that applies intense heat to rocks, converting them to plasma, which is then analyzed. Now we have secret moon layers. A groundbreaking discovery has been found on the moon, as recent research has found evidence of hardened lava layers just 300 feet beneath the moon's dusty and cratered surface, hinting at volcanic activities from a very long time ago. While the findings are yet to be definitively confirmed, the Change 4's lunar rover's low-frequency ground-penetrating radar has been instrumental. The rover, under the leadership of astrophysicist Yongking Fen from the Planetary Science Institute of Arizona, has detected differences in subsurface materials. Now this has led researchers to theorize that the moon experienced lava flows for 1 billion years longer than previously believed. The densest volcanic material deep below the surface is much wider compared to the shallower volcanic layers, suggesting a gradual reduction of volcanic activity over time. Now the most extensive layers measured about 230 feet across, whereas the shallow ones span only 5 meters. Now this tapering off of volcanic activity is indicative of the moon's diminishing internal thermal energy. Now over time, the eruptions would have become progressively smaller until they ceased entirely. Current data points to 3 or 4 significant lava flow events in the von Karman's crater alone. Now an ongoing investigation holds significant promise though, as if validated, it may reshape our understanding of the moon's geologic history, hinting at a more dynamic past with lava-filled landscapes, opposed to the kind of boring, dusty moon we see today. Now, did you know that there's water on the moon? Scientists say they have discovered water trapped inside tiny beads of glass scattered across the moon, suggesting a potential reservoir of this precious resource for future human activities on the lunar surface. The moon was long believed to be dry, but over the past few decades, several missions have shown that there is water both on the surface and trapped inside minerals. In 2023, scientists said that an analysis of lunar soil samples retrieved in 2020 during China's robotic Changes 5 mission showed that these spheres of glass, rock melted and cooled, bore within them water molecules formed through the action of the solar wind on the moon's surface. Now the moon lacks bodies of liquid water, but its surface is thought to harbor a fairly substantial amount of water, for example in ice patches residing in permanently shadowed locales and trapped in minerals. Researchers see promise in obtaining the water from the glass beads, perhaps through a heating process to release vapor that would then turn into liquid through condensation. Now about 3.8 pounds of soil were collected in the Changes 5 mission, with 32 glass beads, tens to hundreds of micrometers wide, were examined in the study from the small amount of soil made available for this research. Now I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty cool if you ask me. Our next topic is moon crystals. A rare lunar crystal found on the near side of the moon is giving scientists hope of providing limitless power for the world. Yeah, this sounds like something out of a cartoon, but it's real. The lunar crystal is made of material previously unknown to the scientific community and contains a key ingredient for the nuclear fusion process, a form of power generation that harnesses the same forces that fuel the sun and other stars in the galaxy. The crystal was found in the lunar basalt particles collected from the moon in 2020 and makes China the 3rd country to discover a new lunar material, behind the US and the former Soviet Union. The Chinese moon mission landed in December 2020 and was the first lunar sample return mission since the 1970s. Now lunar samples were collected and delivered safely to Earth, and the crystal itself is transparent and roughly the width of a single human hair. It formed in a region of the moon that was volcanically active around 1.2 billion billion years ago. Now, one of the primary ingredients found in this crystal is helium-3, which scientists believe may provide a stable fuel source for nuclear fusion reactors. Now, the element is incredibly rare on Earth, but it seems to be fairly prevalent on the moon. China's next mission is expected to be Changes 6 in 2024, which will attempt to collect the first samples from the far side of the moon, which never faces Earth. Now we have the early history of the moon. The moon is ancient and still preserves its early history, aka the first billion years. The extensive record of impact craters on the moon, when calibrated using absolute ages of lunar rock samples, provides a key for unraveling timescales for the geologic evolution of Mercury, Venus, and Mars based on their individual crater records. Remote sensing of other planets or the interpretation of geologic features via images and other data is based in part on lessons learned from the moon. Now, before Apollo, for example, the origin of lunar impact craters were not fully understood, and the origin of similar craters on Earth was highly debated. Next up, the moon is lifeless. The Apollo program was a super important moment in human history. For example, the program was responsible for landing the first human beings on the surface of the moon. However, the Apollo missions contributed much more than putting humans on the moon. It also produced a lot of new scientific data and discoveries, which expanded our knowledge of both the moon itself and our solar system. If you didn't know, the moon is lifeless. Well, unless there's astronauts on it. It contains no living organisms, fossils, or native organic compounds. Extensive testing revealed no evidence for life, past or present, among lunar samples. Even non-biological organic compounds are amazingly absent, and traces can be attributed to the contamination by meteorites. And last on our list is the origin of the moon. Unlike other recent robotic missions aiming for the moon's south pole, Japan's spacecraft SLIM is targeting a site near a small lunar impact crater called Sholi, with a plain known as the Sea of Nectar that scientists suspect was formed by ancient volcanic activity. There, it will investigate the composition of rocks that may help scientists uncover the origins of the moon. A closer look at such minerals could reveal information about the moon's interior structure and formation. However, sites of the crater ejecta are usually avoided due to the difficulty of landing within a small ejecta-strewn area on the slope side surrounding a crater. Now, the SLIM probe has a vision-based navigation technology, and the spacecraft will capture photographs of the moon's surface as it approaches and rapidly pinpoint the vehicle's location on maps previously sketched out by lunar satellites, adjusting its trajectory as it swoops in for its landing. Well,
alright, I got a new Bigfoot video for you guys. This video was posted to TikTok by the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization with the description reading, "Alleged trail camera footage has emerged of what appears to be a giant black Bigfoot throwing trees and destroying a potential crime scene where it is said human remains were located." So this is a pretty clear video. The creature is obscured by trees, but we do get a nice long look at it, and just like the description says, whatever this thing is, it's picking up big logs and hurling them around like they're nothing. Take a look. Yeah, that ain't no bear, the way it picks it up and just slams it down like that. If I saw some hairy thing slamming a log down in the middle of the woods, I would be booking it right out of there. There are a few things that make this video convincing. For one, the clear strength the thing seems to exhibit. One commenter wrote, "I had a tree business before, so I know the weight of logs, and that would take extraordinary strength to do that." I also like that this footage was supposedly taken with a trail camera. If this had been taken by some hiker in the woods, I'd be wondering why they stuck around to film when it's pretty obvious you'd be running for your life. Anyway, what do you all think of this one? Hoax? Genuine? Let me know down in the comments.
Next up, we have the shocking discovery of Cole Brings Plenty, an actor best known for his role on Into the Wild Frontier, as well as his work on 1923 and The Tall Tales of Jim Bridger. Plenty was last seen on March 30th of this year, driving his white Ford Explorer out of Lawrence, Kansas. He was reported missing the following day. After receiving a call about an empty vehicle matching the description of Plenty's, police canvassed the woods nearby where it had been left. And on April 5th of this year, 2024, Cole Brings Plenty was found dead. While the cause of death has yet to be shared with the public, police insist that they will continue to investigate the passing and provide more information as time goes on.
Aliens in Brazil. So this is a bit of a weird story. Just back in January, hikers in Brazil captured some strange figures looming over them at the top of a hill. Figures who they believed to be of extraterrestrial origin. And I will say, whatever these things are, they don't look human. I mean, not quite. There's something just kind of off about them. The footage was captured on an island about 285 miles down the coast from Sao Paulo. In the video, we see a beautiful hillside, but perched on top are two tall humanoid figures silhouetted against the sky. And considering how far away they are, they look to be pretty tall. The people who posted the video said they were about 10 feet tall. Now, on top of that, their bodies just look weird. They're very slender, and zooming in on one of these things here, yeah, just take a look at how long that arm is. I mean, sure, the image is blurry. Maybe it's just kind of distorted, or maybe, Slender Man was on vacation in Brazil. It does have a bit of a Slender Man kind of look to it. Now, if you're wondering, oh, maybe these were just like, scarecrow type things at the top of the hill, you do actually see them move a little bit in the footage, and they don't move naturally either. I don't know, could totally be a hoax, could also be genuine. Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Next up, we have another body found in the woods, this time just off of Richmond International Raceway, a car racing track located in Henrico County in the state of Virginia. Around 4 p.m. on April 25th, a man visiting the track went to use the washroom when he noticed a strong smell. When he followed it, he discovered the body of an unknown man or woman that, according to reports, was not skeletal but had likely been in the woods for an extended period of time before being discovered. Of course, seeing as this is incredibly recent, there is not much information on the case, other than it seems as though the body was left there intentionally. Police have yet to release the cause of death or any other identifying information on the deceased, probably because they don't know. They did state that they are sifting through missing persons reports in an effort to identify who the victim might be.
Next up, we have a jogger who captured a pretty creepy image and didn't even know about it until later. A runner named Kay Borlees was on an endurance run with the Hawaiian ultra running team during a particularly harsh stretch of the loop full of tree roots and water crossings. She ended up injuring her foot and had to pull out of the race. Her pacer, Cassie, had been capturing images the entire time though, so she had some photos to show her friends and family. As she scrolled through the images, something caught her eye though, something that sent a shiver down her spine. It looked like a ghoulish figure had been peering out at her from the brush. Take a look. Kay posted her story along with the images to Reddit, and they were blowing up recently. And it makes sense, because that is a pretty creepy image. It looks like a zombie is walking through the woods there. Both Cassie and Kay didn't remember seeing anyone else on that part of the trail, saying tourists weren't out that early. We didn't see anyone for hours while running together, so we were, and still are, positive there was no one there.
Next up, we have yet another body discovered in the woods near Vietnam Veterans Memorial Bridge in Lewiston in Maine. On Friday afternoon, on the 3rd of May of this year, a body was found inside a tent in the wooded area beneath the bridge. Authorities were called and police arrived at the scene shortly after, around 4:30. Of course, as is with everything on the list, this is incredibly recent. I mean, you did click on a video about disturbing things found in 2024, just 5 months into 2024. So there's not much information. What has been released to the public though is that the body was removed from the area and brought to a medical examiner. The person's identity as well as the cause of death remains unknown.
One of the creepiest things about the woods to me are all the noises. Through the dense vegetation and the sheer size of some forests, you never really know what could be lurking out there. So when you hear something like this, yeah, it makes you pretty uneasy. That sounded like the werewolf howl from An American Werewolf in London. If you've seen the movie, you know the one. Not what I want to hear while trekking alone through the forest. The video was taken in a forest somewhere in eastern Canada a few months back. Now, it being the Canadian wilderness, there are tons of things that could have made a sound like that. Doesn't make it sound any less frightening though. It could be a moose call. But have you ever seen a moose up close? They're gigantic. And there's also the possibility that it is a Sasquatch call. Can't write that off either.
Next up, believe it or not, is not a dead body, just an incredibly creepy abandoned home filled with creepy and decrepit knickknacks. Earlier this year, 2 Canadian urban explorers stumbled upon an abandoned home while exploring in Ontario. As the explorers entered the home, they were greeted by a doll sitting on the staircase, and many other vintage dolls and toys were scattered around the house, some in okay condition for an abandoned house, that is, and some not really. Many stuffed animals had been ripped to shreds and strewn across the floor, making for a pretty eerie sight. As the explorers made their way through the home, they were greeted in each and every room by another pair of lifeless, unblinking doll eyes. One of the explorers even said that it was the strangest abandoned house they had ever seen, and that it was also super creepy. If you have a fear of dolls, I wouldn't suggest seeking this place out because I don't know, you might pee your pants.
This next story comes to us from Reddit. It was posted about 6 months back from a now deleted user. I hope they're okay. It goes as follows. Hey everyone, I need to get this off my chest. Something weird happened to me yesterday and I can't shake the feeling that I was being followed. So I decided to take a hike in the ravine near my house. It's usually pretty quiet, but yesterday things felt off right from the start. About halfway into my hike, I started hearing twigs snapping behind me. At first I thought it was just an animal, maybe a raccoon, but when I turned around, there was nothing there. I shrugged it off and kept walking, but I kind of felt like I was being watched. Then I started to hear footsteps. Not the rustling of leaves or the scurrying of small animals, but distinct footsteps, like someone was walking right behind me. I stopped. I looked around, but again, nobody there. At this point, I started to feel really uneasy. I picked up my pace, hoping to shake off whatever was following me, but the footsteps kept getting closer. I could almost feel someone breathing down my neck. I broke into a sprint. I didn't stop until I burst out of the ravine and back onto the street. When I finally caught my breath, I glanced back at the trees, half expecting to see someone standing right there, but there was nothing. I don't know what to make of it. Maybe it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, but I can't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone in there.
And finally, we have the discovery of a 22-million-year-old forest located in the Panama Canal. And while this discovery is not spooky scary, like unknown beings and unsolved deaths, it's scary in the sense that it reminds us that we really know nothing about the planet that we live on. Earlier this year, scientists discovered a 22-million-year-old forest that had previously disappeared after a volcanic eruption. They discovered remnants of the forest on Barrow, Colorado Island after noticing fossilized trees on the island that they believe were likely all buried and fossilized by volcanic lava flow in the same massive event. The fossilized trees represent a species of mangrove previously unknown, and it is believed that they can grow to be upward of 131 feet tall, which is wild considering modern-day mangroves generally grow to be only about 20 feet.
Let's start off with the mysterious disappearance of the Anasazi. The ancestral Puebloans, also known as the Anasazi, mysteriously disappeared from the Colorado Plateau around 1300 AD, leaving a baffling historical puzzle behind. This advanced civilization, once thriving in intricate cliff dwellings and known for their remarkable pottery and architectural skills, vanished without a clear explanation. Their sudden disappearance, leaving behind hauntingly empty homes and undisturbed artifacts, has long puzzled scientists and archaeologists. Theories range from severe droughts disrupting their agriculture-based society to internal conflicts or even mass migrations to more hospitable lands. Yet, the absence of definitive evidence leaves us wondering, was their fate a result of natural causes, societal upheaval, or perhaps something more profound and unknown to our current understanding? Moving on to another mystery, this one sits beneath the tranquil water waters of Rock Lake, Wisconsin. Here rests a hidden marvel of ancient architecture, a mysterious pyramid believed to be over 10,000 years old. This submerged structure poses baffling questions. How did such a sophisticated construction end up deep underwater? What civilization could have built this mysterious edifice, and for what purpose? Theories range from a lost civilization to unknown natural disasters, yet the dark, silt-laden waters of Rock Lake shroud these secrets in profound mystery, defying clear answers and fueling the imagination with possibilities of a forgotten chapter in human history. Taking it back to 1945, Flight 19, a squadron of 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers mysteriously vanished over the Bermuda Triangle during a routine training flight. The flight's leader, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, was heard over the radio with a final, very ominous message. Quote, "We are entering white water. Nothing seems right." This cryptic transmission was the last known contact with the flight. An extensive search operation was launched, but neither the planes nor the crew members were ever found, adding to the lore of the Bermuda Triangle. The disappearance of Flight 19 remains one of the most famous aviation mysteries. The experienced pilots, well-trained and familiar with their route, inexplicably deviated from their course. Theories range from spatial disorientation to magnetic anomalies, but the truth remains a mystery. What could have led these skilled airmen into a fatal error, and how did they vanish without a trace in one of the most puzzling regions of the ocean? Moving on, we have the mass graves of Tulsa. In 1921, Tulsa, Oklahoma was the site of one of the most horrific racial massacres in American history, an event often overlooked in historical accounts. Known as the Tulsa Race Massacre, this tragedy resulted in the destruction of the Greenwood District, also known as the Black Wall Street, a prosperous black community. Recent excavations in the area have uncovered mass graves, a chilling testament to the scale of this atrocity. These findings serve as a grim reminder of the violence that was inflicted, with scientists and historians diligently working to identify the victims and reconstruct the events of those very dark days. Efforts are ongoing to bring closure to families and acknowledge a painful chapter in American history that has long been neglected. Moving on to Hexham, North America, where the discovery of 2 ancient stone heads in a garden led to a series of chilling events that baffled both locals and experts. These heads, believed to be of Celtic origin, were soon linked to unusual and terrifying occurrences, most notably sightings of a werewolf-like creature prowling the area. The phenomenon intensified, with reports of eerie noises and inexplicable disturbances in homes near where the heads were found. Strangely, even after the heads were removed from the site, the mysterious happenings persisted. This led to widespread speculation about a possible ancient curse or a supernatural connection, deepening the mystery and leaving more questions than answers in their wake. Moving on, at our halfway point, we have the moving stones of Death Valley. At Racetrack Playa in Death Valley, a peculiar and haunting spectacle unfolds. Here, heavy stones, some weighing hundreds of pounds, mysteriously glide across the desert floor, etching long trails behind them as if charting their secret journeys. For years, this baffling phenomenon has completely perplexed scientists. Initially, it seemed impossible for such heavy objects to move without human or animal intervention. However, recent theories have brought a semblance of understanding, suggesting a combination of thin ice sheets forming under the rocks and then strong wind gusts providing just enough force to set these stones in motion. Despite this, the exact mechanism behind this eerie dance of the desert stones remains elusive, continuing to intrigue and also completely mystify those who witness it. The silent, slow-moving journey of these stones across the barren playa represents a captivating natural puzzle, one that beautifully exemplifies the mysteries our planet still holds. In the small town of Fouke, Arkansas, a legend lurks in the murky swamps. Residents have whispered and wondered about sightings of a large ape-like creature known as the Fouke Monster or the Southern Sasquatch. Since the 1950s, this creature has been the subject of numerous reports and, of course, local folklore. Described as a foul-smelling, nocturnal, bipedal being, it's said to roam the swampy, dense areas of the region, often shrouded in mystery and darkness. Eyewitness accounts vary, but common descriptions include glowing red eyes, a terrifying growl, and a towering height. Skeptics argue it might be a misidentified or undiscovered animal species, while others speculate about more supernatural origins. Is this creature a real undiscovered animal lurking in the southern wilderness, or a product of mass hysteria among the townsfolk? Or is there a more chilling explanation behind these sightings? You tell me. Moving on, we have the mystery of the Georgia Guidestones. In Elbert County, Georgia, stands a monumental structure known as the Georgia Guidestones. Erected in 1980 by an anonymous group, this structure consists of 6 granite slabs towering over 19 feet high. The stones are inscribed with 10 guidelines in 8 modern languages, advocating for concepts like population control, environmentalism, and world peace. Additionally, there is a shorter message inscribed at the top of the structure in 4 ancient languages: Babylonian, Classical Greek, Sanskrit, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. The identity of those responsible for its construction and their intentions remains a complete mystery. This ambiguity has led to various interpretations and conspiracy theories. Are these stones a guide for post-apocalyptic survival, a manifesto from a secretive group seeking a new world order, or perhaps a philosophical statement about humanity's future? Down in Florida, there is a remarkable structure known as the Coral Castle. Built single-handedly by the Latvian immigrant Edward Leedskalnin from 1923 to 1951, this stone structure is composed of over 1,000 tons of oolitic limestone, with each megalithic stone weighing several tons. What makes this feat even more incredible is that Leedskalnin stood just over 5 feet tall and weighed barely 100 pounds, yet he managed to construct the entire complex alone under the cover of night using only primitive tools. He claimed to have unlocked the secrets of the ancient Egyptian pyramids, harnessing a unique understanding of magnetism and earth energies to move these colossal stones. The intricacies of his method, like the turning of a 9-ton gate that moves with a touch, remains a mystery. How did one man accomplish such an architectural marvel, and what profound secrets of ancient construction techniques might he have rediscovered? And why the did he not share that information with the rest of us? That's my question, okay? That's not in the script. That's just greedy. Greedy. In southwestern Vermont, shrouded in the dense forest of the Green Mountains, lies a mysterious area known as the Bennington Triangle. This region gained notoriety for a series of chilling and unexplained disappearances that occurred between 1945 and 1950. Much like the infamous Bermuda Triangle, the Bennington Triangle seems to have a perplexing history of people vanishing without a trace, sparking a myriad of theories and folklore. Among the most notable disappearances was that of Paula Jean Weldon in 1946, a case that remains unsolved and continues to haunt the area. Theories range from natural causes and criminal acts to more otherworldly explanations like alien abductions or interdimensional portals. The dense wilderness and rugged terrain add to the mystery, making searches and investigations very challenging. What truly makes the Bennington Triangle so perilous, and what could be behind these mysterious disappearances? The answers remain as elusive as the victims themselves, buried deep in the silent, watchful woods of Vermont.
First up, we have the leopard seal, and before you tell me they aren't scary, you're wrong. Not only do these things have razor-sharp teeth and an appetite for insides, their back teeth are literally serrated to help them tear apart their prey better. And if that doesn't shout carnivore with a non-discerning palate, I really don't know what does. So let's get to know these guys a little better. Leopard seals are the 3rd largest seal in the world, world, and they like to be alone. They swim underwater, and they are the only seals known to reportedly hunt and devour warm-blooded prey. By the way, we're warm-blooded. I will save you the search. Yes, they have attacked humans, and of the recorded attacks, one has resulted in a fatality. Oh, and sometimes they attack their babies, so don't think they'd have any qualms about coming for you. They're cute, but I will not be taking my chances. Nor would I want to take my chances with this next one, because next up we have the colossal squid. Not to be mistaken for the giant squid, they are actually vastly different animals belonging to two separate squid families. I mean, they're both squid, so really how different can they be? But anyways, some differences between the two include the fact that while the giant squid is slightly longer, its colossal counterpart has a much larger and heavier body, weighing an average of 490 kilograms, which is 1,080 pounds, in comparison to the giant squid, which comes in at an average of just 275 kilograms, which is about 606 pounds. Furthermore, the colossal squid has one of the largest eyes of any known creature to ever exist, and unlike any other squid out there, this thing has hooks in its tentacles and a bite force of 100 pounds per square inch. In short, I wouldn't look at this thing the wrong way if you paid me. And next on the list we have the southern sleeper shark. Keep in mind that the Drake Passage is nearly impossible to explore, so it should come as no surprise that even when we are able to make discoveries within its waters or along its shores, they tend to be quite surface level. That being said, there is not much we really know about this shark, but what we do know is that this shark is a member of the dogfish shark species. Generally, the males measure in at around 13 feet, while the females come in at around 14.2 feet. The largest of the species ever discovered came in at 15. Their lifespan is unknown, and their existence is strange due to the fact that, as a basic rule of thumb, the majority of shark species prefer to live in warmer waters, as it speeds up their physiological processing as well as their metabolic rate. Only a handful of sharks are equipped to survive in temperatures as cold as those occurring in the Drake Passage, and they do so through something called counter-current heat exchange, using the heat generated in their muscles to warm their bodies while metabolizing food much slower than their more equator-adjacent counterparts. As we near our halfway point, I feel like I owe those of you who don't know a quick lesson. The Drake Passage, which is situated between the Antarctic Peninsula and Cape Horn, the southernmost part of Chile, has some incredibly treacherous waters, with some who have voyaged along its waters having reported waves of up to 65 feet, 19.8 meters in height. Guys, that is like 4 to 6 times the size of an average one-story house. These seas are not messing around. With waves so big, it's really no wonder that the Drake Passage has been home to so many cases of triumph, tragedy, injury, and mystery too. Which brings us to our halfway point. We have the wreck of over 800 ships, in which over 20,000 sailors would have met their end in the icy cold waters of the passage. The wrecks, which occurred likely due to the aforementioned high seas along with poor weather conditions, have led to the passage landing its name in the Rocky Waters Hall of Fame, making it a place that generates much curiosity. Among the many shipwrecks that have taken place along the Drake, we have the wreck of the Antarctic, a steam engine whaling vessel that hit the waters of the Drake Passage in 1901 and met its end just a few years later after becoming surrounded by large icebergs, which crushed and eventually sunk the ship, making it the first recorded instance of a shipwreck as a result of being trapped by glaciers. This story is not all bad though, as the captain and the entirety of the crew did survive. After the loss of their ship, sailors made their way across the ice to Paulet Island, where they spent an entire winter sheltered in stone huts and living off the land before they were eventually rescued. And next on the list we have the southern elephant seal. And these things are huge, with the males of the species averaging in at 4 to 5 meters in length, around 13 to 16.5 feet, and weighing 3,500 kilograms, which is 7,716 pounds. These things are built like a brick, with razor-sharp teeth and an aggressive streak. The males are incredibly territorial, and therefore it is not uncommon for fights to break out amongst the communities of these animals, resulting in extreme injury for at least one, if not both, adult male elephant seals. Some cool, less violent things we know about the southern elephant seal is that they spend up to 80% of their lives in the ocean and are able to swim an average of 60 miles per day, adding up to around 15 to 20,000 miles per year. And they can do this at a speed of up to 10 miles per hour. And they can dive anywhere between 1,000 to 5,000 feet, 300 to 900 meters. It is important to note that while the animals have a regular diet of squid, fish, rays, and even sharks, there have been multiple reports of southern elephant seals attacking humans, so a safe distance is highly recommended. Another aggressive animal with incredibly sharp appendages, enter the southern giant petrel, a massive carnivorous bird with an average wingspan of 200 centimeters, 6.5 feet, and a razor-sharp beak that the animal uses to tear apart its prey. This bird is not picky, as it's known to both hunt and scavenge, generally for krill, squid, or fish, but it's really not opposed to any left behind dead or decaying animals either. Oh yeah, and I think I mentioned these things are super aggressive, often taking out other petrels, large seabirds, and penguins either by beating or drowning them. But it's not just these other animals that fear this massive bird. Sailors too, as these birds have been known to attack those who have fallen overboard, targeting the face and eyes with its claws and hooked ivory beak. And next up, not only is the Drake Passage known for high waves, it is also known for incredibly high force, hurricane strength winds, along with whipping rains and hailstorms. The winds in the Drake Passage can reach up to 50 knots, 58 miles per hour, and generally come in from the west. When it rains, the cold water feels like needles against the skin, and when it hails, even worse. It is highly advised that any passengers on trips through the passage stay inside during voyages across the extreme stretch of water, and even crewmen are pressured to remain in as much cover as possible throughout their journeys. I don't know you guys, I love the ocean and I've always wanted to visit the Arctic, but I don't think I'd risk this one. Up next we have icebergs. Well, an iceberg, and not just any iceberg, but the world's largest iceberg, also known as A76A. The giant once sat at 84 miles, 135 kilometers long, and 16 miles, 26 kilometers wide. This thing is still massive, but unfortunately that might not last long. You see, for a while, A76A had been slowly drifting around Antarctica, enduring relatively no decrease in its size. But satellite imagery has revealed that the giant ice slab has taken a change of course, landing itself right into the mouth of the Drake Passage. The Drake Passage, which is known to push icebergs right on through its treacherous cold waters, sending them northwards into much warmer ones. You can probably guess why this is not an ideal scenario. With already rising water temperatures, the movement of this iceberg through the passage is quite an unsettling discovery, as it highlights the swift rate in which sea levels can be altered and geology can be changed. And in our #1 spot, we've covered wrecked ships, but we haven't covered haunted ones. Specifically the haunted schooner Jenny, commonly referred to as just Jenny. The ship was discovered frozen inside of an ice barrier by the crew of the Hope ship in 1840, 20 years after the Jenny had originally gone missing. The men of the Hope recounted their initial sighting of the missing vessel, saying that as they approached the ship, they noticed a group of 7 men standing at attention on the main deck. But as they got closer, they realized that the men were in fact frozen solid. Upon boarding the ship, they discovered the captain also frozen solid with a pen in his hand, and a journal open to his final entry on the table, which read, May 4th, 1823, no food for 71 days. I am the only person left alive. When the members of the Hope crew departed the Jenny, they took one last look at the disheveled vessel, possibly the last look ever taken, as since their departure, the ship has yet to be located again. Alright, starting off our list today, we have human remains. Yep, on Friday, April 26th of this year, 2024, deputies from the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office were alerted after the body of a woman was seen floating in the ocean just off of Fort Bragg in California. The deputies, along with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and the California Department of State Parks, retrieved the body of a young female from the water. Unfortunately, the identity of the deceased remains unknown, as there were no identifying marks or characteristics on the body to aid in determining the identity of the individual. Along with this, the cause of death has not yet been determined for the young woman, and so a coroner's investigation has been initiated to help determine both her identity and cause of death. A police investigation is also underway to determine how the woman made her way into the water and whether or not foul play was at all involved in the incident.
Next up, we have the mysterious golden orb. Back in 2023, scientists came across a strange golden blob deep in the North Pacific in the Gulf of Alaska. The thing was about 4 inches in diameter and was attached to a rock. The team was using remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs, as part of NOAA's Seascape Alaska 5 expedition to explore deep water habitats. They have no idea what this thing is, but it was determined to be biological. So it was something, it wasn't man-made. There was also a small hole in the orb looking like something had gone in or come out, which is definitely freakier. There's a live stream of the researchers picking up the thing with the ROV, and they joke about how the discovery feels like the start of a horror movie. Using a gentle suction device on the ROV, they carefully removed the orb and brought it to the surface for closer examination on their ship, but other than the fact that the thing was biological, they still have no idea what it is. Carrie Howell, a deep-sea ecologist, stated the orb could be a new species or an unknown stage of an existing one.
Next up, we have the unicumber, an entirely new species of sea cucumber that is equal parts fascinating and nausea-inducing. As you can see from the image, this animal is see-through, making its digestive tracts completely visible. Lucky us. The animal acts almost as an ocean floor vacuum cleaner, locating and consuming sediment that has settled in the depths of the ocean, sediment that is passed through the stomachs of multiple other sea creatures before making its way in what appears to be the large and only intestine of the unicumber. Unpleasant to say the least. Anyways, the unicumber was captured using a remote operated vehicle which was sent down to the seafloor of the Pacific Ocean so that marine scientists may see what kind of things are lurking in the deep. The unicumber was among the largest animals found during the expedition, and it is assumed by researchers that its long tail that you can see is used to maneuver throughout the dark ocean floor.
Next up, we have Barbie pigs. So it wasn't just the unicumber the researchers found, there were tons of new species discovered in the Clarion-Clipperton zone of the Pacific. The team was led by deep-sea researcher at London's Natural History Museum, Dr. Adrian Glover. They were studying life at 13 to 16,000 feet down below, and along with the unicumbers, they also found these odd-looking creatures. Super strange, alien-looking things for sure. Like most of the life this deep below the surface often is, oddly kinda cute in a bizarro kinda way though, at least to me. Maybe it's because it's pink. Kind of reminds me of Patrick Star or like Kirby or something. One PhD student, Bethany Fleming, suggested they dub the creature the Barbie pig, and the team agreed. And if you're thinking it's because they had just watched the Barbie movie on the flight over and just had it on their minds, you'd be right. That is exactly the reason.
Next up, we have the blob, a large mass of relatively warm water located in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of North America. It was discovered in late 2013 and continued to spread until 2015. Basically, it's a massive marine heat wave that lasted for over 700 days and resulted in the deaths of an estimated 1.2 million seabirds and countless marine animals. The phenomenon, nicknamed the blob, is assumed by researchers to be the result of high pressure systems and greenhouse gases, and it is also largely to blame for the decline in the humpback whale population and the decline of Pacific cod. It is an extremely strange phenomenon that is not fully explainable, but that is definitely worrying based on the sheer amount of detriment it has already caused and could continue to cause to marine life.
Next on the list, we have the true purpose of the expedition we talked about earlier, where all those strange new species of life were discovered. The team was studying the biodiversity in the Clarion-Clipperton zone because the area is going to be used for deep-sea mining, the mining of sea potatoes. But what exactly are sea potatoes? Well, they're actually pretty important to the future of battery-powered cars, amongst other things. Sea potatoes are the nickname for manganese nodules, black rocks that contain precious metals like cobalt, nickel, and manganese. The plan is to scoop these rocks up, bring them to the surface. The CCZ has the largest concentration of these precious materials in the entire world, so they needed to study the life down there to make sure the mining wouldn't disrupt the ecosystems and have too much of a negative influence.
Next up, we have the plastic bag. While a plastic bag hiding in your closet is neither shocking nor scary, unless of course you specifically removed it from your closet only to have it reappear days later, finding a plastic bag at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the ocean's deepest point, is pretty nerve-wracking. Why? Well, because it illustrates just how widespread pollution has become on our planet. I mean, no human has ever grazed the bottom of the ocean, but our trash certainly has. In 2018, while scanning through thousands of photos and videos from multiple devices located in the depths of the Pacific Ocean, looking for unseen oceanic discoveries, marine scientists came across something completely ordinary for a Sunday trip to the supermarket, but completely out of the ordinary for the the untouched depths of the ocean. A plastic grocery bag, which has since become a symbol of our need to make change in order to protect some of the world's most delicate ecosystems.
Just last year, in the summer of 2023, an astrophysicist named Avi Loeb worked together with the US Space Command to haul over 700 small pieces of space debris from the sea, just off the coast of Manus Island. The debris consisted of fragments from a meteor that flew into Earth's atmosphere back in 2014. At the time, a US spy satellite saw them plummeting into the sea, but there was no further investigation until Loeb and some of his undergraduate students got their hands on the report and set out to see if they could haul the little space bits out of the water. The debris is in the form of these pocket-sized spheres containing rare elements like lanthanum, uranium, and large amounts of beryllium. Loeb made a statement to the press saying, quote, "This is the first time ever that humans have held materials from a large interstellar object in their hands," which is pretty cool. Never before have we had the opportunity to examine materials from an object like this that came from outside the solar system. It's a historic discovery. He also made a very interesting statement saying that, quote, "The possibility of it coming from alien hardware is more exotic, but it is a possibility. What we can say for sure is it's not from the solar system." Yeah, pretty amazing.
Next up, we have Amelia Earhart's plane. That's right, after 87 years, researchers at the ocean exploration company Deep Sea Vision believe they may have located the Lockheed 10E Electra that Amelia Earhart had flown while attempting to circumnavigate the globe after becoming the first woman to fly solo over the Atlantic Ocean and the first woman to fly solo across North America. She departed from Oakland, California and flew for 3 weeks, making various stops to rest and refuel. She was last seen in New Guinea taking off for Howland Island, but unfortunately she never made it. It is believed her plane was lost over the Pacific, but with no substantial evidence, there was no way of knowing for sure. Until now, that is, because in January of this year, 2024, Deep Sea Vision claims to have captured sonar images of what they believe to be Earhart's aircraft, sitting comfortably at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean untouched and undisturbed for over 87 years. While it has not been confirmed that what the company found is in fact Amelia Earhart's plane, the company does have plans to return to the site and use a remote-operated vehicle to confirm their findings sometime later this year before possibly bringing the object back up to the surface. So there's things to look forward to.
Finally, we have a giant underwater mountain. The seamount was discovered in November of 2023 when researchers were mapping the seafloor off the coast of Guatemala. It's what remains of an ancient underwater volcano and sits 7,870 feet below the surface. Now, when I say giant, what exactly am I talking here? Well, try 5,250 feet tall. To put this into perspective, the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, is 2,720 feet tall, about half the size. So that's one giant volcano, and there are apparently tons of others that have yet to be discovered. Experts estimate there could be hundreds of thousands we haven't seen yet. And seamounts are actually, they serve a pretty important purpose for the ecosystems down there as well. They're home to plenty of life like sea corals, sponges, and other deep sea life.
Well, I see there are a lot of things going on in the ocean.
You just come out that top of the dome?
On the dome.
Love it.
It comes in waves.
Oh, amazing. That's Gucci. Alright, we will catch you folks, and that's all I got today is that's Gucci.
Yeah,
that's the one joke I have today. Well, we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Cheers.
It's about fast food toys that almost ruined lives back in the day. These toys were just straight up not safe for kids to play with, and we're gonna break them all down for you today. See you in the next video.